Good evening to 6:30. This session of the Bastrop City Council is now in session. The City of Bastrop reserves the right to reconvene, recess, and realign the regular session or called executive session or order of business at any time prior to adjournment. Welcome all. We are very pleased and honored to have two outstanding individuals from the Emil Elementary Safety Patrol, Amanda Garza, come on up, and Leighton North. Stand right over here, guys and girls. So if everybody will please stand. Flags back over here, y'all. Back over, turn around. Back over, there you are. Your shot, go ahead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Let's give these youngsters a round of applause. Outstanding job. If y'all, wait a minute. Y'all, I told you we're going to take pictures so y'all can look pretty. Act like y'all know each other. All right. Smile pretty. Thank y'all. If you will remain standing, we're going to have one of our police chaplains, Reverend Hardy Overton, to deliver our invocation.
Father, in the name of Jesus, we come before you right now and we give you all the honor and all the glory, Lord. We want to say a blessing, Almighty God, over the city council meeting today. We just want to ask you to come and take charge and help us and guide us, Lord, in the way that you want us to go. I want to say a special prayer for Bastrop, for the city of Bastrop, for Bastrop County, and for Texas, and for this United States, Lord. And I ask all this in your Son, Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Y'all may be seated. Thank you, sir. We're going to move right into the mayor's report. We have an extensive agenda tonight, council, so I'm going to try to be brief. Since we last met here on the dais, I, along with you, have been busy with a variety of meetings, including 2 nights of interviews with our citizens, advisory boards, and commissions, applicant interviews. It is gratifying that we have so many of our citizens willing to serve to advance our community. Last week, I was quite honored to sign a proclamation noting September 17, 2023 as Constitution Day in Bastrop. September 17th is designated as Constitution Day and Citizenship Day to commemorate the signing of the U.S. Constitution in Philadelphia in 1787. And I carry a copy of the Constitution with me, and I read it, well, not as much as I should. Thursday, I was able to stop off at the Farm Street Opry and listen to some great country music. If you haven't attended one of these, which are held on the first Thursday of each month, I encourage you to do so. Good country music. On October 5th, T. Graham Brown will be the featured performer, a well-known Texas performer. I'm sure the Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland, who emceed this last Thursday, will have something to add to the subject. Well, he will now that I've called him out on it. And just yesterday, I was honored to be invited to answer questions from an extremely well-behaved group of second graders from Mrs. Ruth's class at Calvary Episcopal School. They were eager to learn about city government, and they gave me a preview of the questions that went out with them. Some of the questions were, why in the world would you want to be mayor of Bastrop? How much money does it take to run Bastrop for a year? And how old do you have to be on city council? And I informed them that they had another 11 years and that they could run after they registered to vote. But it was very gratifying to see their eagerness to learn. Lastly, I want to remind council that Thursday we have our Texas Municipal League Region 10 meeting in Lockhart this coming Thursday. I believe everybody's going except Councilmember Lee, and that's all right. We're good. Moving right on along, Councilmember Crouch, do you have something you want to share with the crowd?
I've worked on reading a lot of development agreements that the city has with developers in the area, and then the county's requirements, and then the combination of those two for the ETJ requirement. So I've been studying that, and then plus this 500-page agenda for tonight. So that's what I've been doing. That's my update for the week.
Thank you, sir. I think somebody relates to what you just said. So, Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. I went to a lot of things, but two things I really wanted to recognize were the Chamber of Commerce had a luncheon last week, and Sheila Lowe presented disaster preparedness talks and what you should do, and it was phenomenal. So if you have a chance to look that up on the Bastrop County Emergency page for all the tips that Sheila gave. And the other thing that consumed a lot of my time was the Bastrop homecoming last week. So I do have a grandson who's a junior, so a lot of my activities were involved with the school and the parades, and it was just fantastic in town. So I just want to give a big shout out, even though we didn't win, we're amazing, and go Bears.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Bastrop. So I caught the tail end of the homecoming parade, literally like the last two cars. I am in the middle of rehearsals with Willy Wonka, which is why I'm not going to be able to go to the Regional 10 meeting. I'm really disappointed, but my boss will not allow me to perform if I don't show up at rehearsal. So I will miss it. But a couple of things I wanted to point out. September is Hunger Awareness Month to raise awareness around food insecurities in our city and county. The food pantry has seen a 29% increase in the request for food and support. They are asking the city to go orange in honor of September being Hunger Awareness Month, and to everyone pick a day to wear orange to highlight the month. Of course, last time I saw they need tuna fish. Tuna fish is the thing that everyone's asking for, so if you can donate to the food pantry, please do so. I had the honor of being asked to be part of the Texas Association of Mayors, Council Members, and Commissioners Committee with TML. We met this week and we nominated Vice Chair for the organization who will be elected or considered for election during our TML conference in October. So I was honored to receive an email asking me if I wanted to serve on that, and I did. Fairview Cemetery is going to be having some tours coming up soon, so you can visit our website or the Fairview website for those dates. And then a couple of library updates. I wanted to give a shout out to Barbara Clemens, who did not reappoint or asked to be reappointed to the library board after serving, I don't want to guess, but I want to say she said 13 years on the library board. It's a lot. And I've known her since birth. She's been in this community for a long time and active in the community, so I wanted to make sure we gave her recognition here. Always want to say that the library needs volunteers. Volunteerism has increased at the library, but there are always a need, and the open house is in December, so they're certainly going to need volunteers for that month. So if you're interested in doing more in the community, you can start there at the library. Other than that, glad to see you all here. Hope you guys are all watching online, and thank you for participating in local government.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Thank you, Mayor. So as the Mayor mentioned, I was the Master of Ceremonies at Farm Street Opry, where we had Stephen Pride, the younger brother of the legendary Charlie Pride. And it was an amazing show. There were 31 total songs, and it ended with a standing ovation. And so it was a really great show, and so I recommend everyone come out to see that next month. Second thing is, I wanted to celebrate the Longhorn victory over Alabama because it's meaningful. But more importantly, I want to invite everyone to come out to Old Town Bar and Grill for the Texas X's who gather for every football game to watch it. And so it builds a little community support. And at the end of the game, we all sang the Eyes of Texas. So it was great.
Councilmember Plunkett, I'm sure you appreciated that last comment.
Of course, and it's funny they didn't play football last weekend. I'm not sure why. My team didn't do so hot, we all know, but that's okay. At least Alabama lost. That's good.
Amen.
In the interest of brevity, the only thing I wanted to add was not this weekend, but next weekend, the 21st through the 24th, is Bastrop Music Fest. Make sure you're all have your dancing shoes on and are ready for a good time. We always have a lot of visitors in town from that. Visit Bastrop sponsors it and puts that on, and it's a great event, and it's gotten bigger every year, and always looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, council. Now we'll move to the 5A, which is our city manager's monthly report. Oh, I'm sorry, city manager's report 4C.
It's 4C and 5A.
I've got you.
And the rest of the agenda. So good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the first monthly report in this format to give the council an update of where we are. You saw it in written format. This is a very brief presentation for the folks at home. I know Colin is advancing kind of slow. These are just some of the very high level management projects that we have going on, so I will go through some of those, and please at any point if you have any questions on any of them, please stop me. The RFP for the hotel will be released in December of 2023. We did hire a consultant to help us release that. As you're aware, the public may not be aware, we received special legislation that allows us to recoup a portion of the state's hotel occupancy tax that will allow us to build a hotel attached to our convention center. So we get to recoup everything within 1,000 feet of that, and so the plan is for those dollars that other people spend to help sponsor that hotel. We have a draft transportation plan update. I have asked the consultants to put a break on that. From what I heard in the B3 conversation, we're looking for connectivity. That doesn't mean a sidewalk to nowhere. That means we should be able to get from place A to place B and know where we're going and where they make sense. Loop 150 corridor study, I will bring everybody's attention to that. Absolutely, absolutely critical. That is the Capital Area Metro Planning Organization. That is Austin and TxDOT working with us or telling us what to do. It depends on who you're asking, on what Loop 150 will look like. They cite connectivity, they cite walkability, but I do remind folks we move thousands and thousands of cars down that corridor. So any narrowing of that corridor is going to have negative implications for this path. It is akin to cutting off an artery to a city by making people go around onto a highway. So I want to make sure everybody clearly understands what that is. On the 26th, we will be talking about the draft drainage master plan. As you know, that was put into place several years ago. We're finally coming to fruition. It has a very, very, very large price tag. The council will need to prioritize how we're going to fund some of those projects. The B3 code revamp continues in the process improvements. We're chipping away. I owe council a B3 outline on the September 19th meeting, and I plan to deliver. We're working through the street repair master plan. That street repair master plan is contingent upon the vote that is on the ballot in November. For residents who don't know that, the council voted to move to reallocate a portion of sales tax that currently goes to economic development, to fund economic development, to recoup that back, and 3/8 of that to go to street repair, local street repair. That will be on the ballot in November. The Economic Development Corporation, working on a master plan with them, whether the vote is approved or whether the vote is not approved, how we're going to manage those dollars moving forward, and making sure that if we incentivize development here, it makes sense to everybody, including the residents. We have the Parks Master Plan and inventory. One of the things we heard was stuff's broken. Let's not plan new stuff till we fix our stuff. So we are working, we just hired a facilities person. We will be working to get that inventory delivered to the council in November of 2023. We spoke about a franchise agreement with the ambulance. We've not been able to resolve that, and that is truly because Highway 71 will remain under construction for the next viable. We've received our funding back from TxDOT, so the bridges on Highway 71 are due to be completed, but it'll be a series of time. We will not solve the zero and unknown ETA for ambulances until Highway 71 is opened. The reality of it is we need a hospital in Bastrop to reduce that travel time. It's not getting any better as growth continues to happen. We continue to work through the boring companies, SpaceX and Corex. I expect to have an agreement in council's hands before the end of the year. At least that's what the parties all have agreed to. Legal now has the Aqua effluent and memorandum of understanding for trading off our CCN boundaries as we've discussed. Legal will craft those, and I hope to have those back to the council by the end of the year. And for the residents that don't know what that is, we are short on water, obviously. And so water's the new gold, and we will be reusing the effluent, selling it back to Aqua, who will retreat it, which will help further protect the aquifer so we're not pulling out any more than what we absolutely need. The Quiet Zone, I have a meeting with the Quiet Zone, the Union Pacific Railroad, end of next week. Council will need to identify a funding source, and we'll talk about that during this budget discussion in a few minutes, because the budget cost is $45,000 for that Quiet Zone. It cannot be paid with hot funds. So we'll have to have that discussion and allocate that from excess revenues in this year. We've talked about the EDC tax reallocation. Again, that's on the ballot in November. I did talk to Dr. Lee and Barry, the superintendent, about a potential partnership with the welding class who could help us at the arena and help us in the park spaces for all of our metal and shade structures. I met with Dustin Schultz, who's the welding and ag teacher, and we are going to hammer out an MOU that would allow the kids to do their on-class, on-premise at Mayfest Park and in some of our parks to get those things moving quicker. The additional land at Mayfest Park, that has gone, we've reached out to the appraiser to get that appraised. I expect that back in December of 2023. Next slide, please. Capital improvement projects, there's a lot of them. The wastewater treatment plant, we will be having some of that discussion in executive session. We do have some issues to hammer out. We have the transmission lines expected in 24 and 25. Blakey extension, that is a discussion that you'll have later on today. There is an allocation that was made by the EDC for $1 million. We have design at $604,000. You will have that in front of you. There is an issue with alignment, and there is an issue with utilities. As we talk through the development across the street from Lowe's, and we talk about needing to go around We Care for that alignment at Blakey, we'll have to keep continuing to talk about that until we can get that necessary right away. Agnes Street extension also moving forward. South Street to Lovers Lane, that is an Economic Development Corporation discussion we need to have as part of the joint meeting, whether that's going to be able to be funded, especially if the tax gets reallocated to streets, what's going to fund that extension. And I've reopened conversations with the county about that Lovers Lane. How can we partner to better improve that? We have the elevated storage tank for water at FM 969, which serves that entire area, and if we do it right, will serve the city. So we need to get that going. The Riverwood water main, that's October of 2023, and the Fairview Cemetery, you saw a few council meetings ago, that's expected to be completed in March of 2023. Not construction, not vertical, but at least the plat to get them ready to go all the way with the columbariums and the expansion of the in-ground. Next slide, please. I know that's very small to read. These are all of the grants that we have in place. The one that is of interest to everybody is the grants for the bridge. We have been told by TxDOT that we should have an answer by end of the month, October. That will coincide with The bridge celebration, we have a 100-year bridge celebration coming, for everybody who doesn't know that, November the 9th, over at the bridge and probably down at Neighbors. The council has voted, if we don't get the grant, council has voted to spend the dollars to fix the bridge and reopen the bridge. So whatever happens, we are heading in that direction fast and furious. The engineers are on notice, and we will get started with redesign, and it's expected to take 24 to 36 months, start to finish. Next slide, please. We will be talking about both of these items in executive session. We continue to push the P uphill to try to get resolution on both those items as soon as possible. Next slide, please. And then other. So we talked about the downtown lighting project and how we've put the kibosh on some of the ideas that would have cluttered the sidewalk even more and made it even less ADA accessible. We are continuing to light the tree wells and continuing to make sure all of the trees from one end of Main to the other, all the way down to Ferry Park, are lit. That's expected in the May or June timeframe. Rodeo Arena repair, we did allocate that 167. I am awaiting a standard purchasing agreement from the consultant, so that is about a 3-week. We're about 30 days from start to finish of the assessment, the discussion with the folks, and bringing a report back to council. I continue to reorganize and fill in the holes where we need to. I was hoping to have a final org chart to you tonight. I don't have that. I'm waiting for some final discussions with staff. The rezoning of the cemetery, that is expected in the November timeframe because we do have to get through the demolition of the Blue House. Again, I need to identify funding. It does have asbestos. Know that for a fact. So it will be upwards of $100,000. So I've got to get a funding source for that. The Farm Street Village development, the last conversation was they needed a letter of support. We're not ready to provide that because we don't have a final drainage plan. Can't support something I don't know works. And then we have the conversation that happens about Chestnut, all of the equipment that's needed and why it's so expensive when we close Chestnut for the parades and our nonprofits and the school, et cetera, who can't afford that. So I'm expecting a report from staff on going ahead and making the purchase so that we can drive down that cost significantly. More recently, the school had to reroute the homecoming parade because they couldn't afford the cost. And there's the lighting of the bridge, November the 9th. That is the weekend before the Veterans Car Show. That is the Thursday before of the same weekend of the Veterans Car Show. Does that make sense? Veterans Car Show is on Friday that weekend. This is Thursday before. Wassail Fest, November, Christmas parade and all things Christmas, December. You might have seen folks hanging lights out. You signed the Decor IQ lighting contract 2 weeks ago. They were already out testing the lights along the bridge and along Main Street. We did go back to our super big significant pieces of lighting. I know last year we had a lot of complaints as to what did we pay for? That didn't feel like I was in any kind of holiday, so we did go back to that. And then we have a new event this year, and that's Mardi Gras, and that's in February of 2024. So we are partnering with, Kathy, give me the name of the city? Evangeline Parish in Louisiana. She's got Lieutenant Governor and all kinds of people planning to partner with us on throwing a really good Mardi Gras parade. So this is why you have a 500-page agenda. Next slide, please, Colin. Any questions on that?
Anybody have questions for the city manager based on her short list that she just provided us? Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We're going to move, there are no staff and board reports. We're going to move to item number 7, citizen comments. I have, Madam City Secretary, I have one general comment. Do we have any others under general comment? The others are item specific. The one general comment is Ian Todd. Are you here? Please. You have 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor and members of the Bastrop City Council, my name is Ian Todd. I'm an attorney that represents Smith Contracting Company. It is in my capacity as an advocate for Smith Contracting that I'm here today. Smith Contracting is the contractor hired by the city to complete Phase 1 of the West Side Collection Systems Improvement Project. Smith Contracting's work is a component part of the wastewater treatment plant number 3. The reason I asked to speak today is because my client has not been paid in full for its work, despite having completed its work over a year ago. Specifically, the city's engineering department is refusing to pay my client the final $47,000 the city committed to pay by contract, and is refusing to allow my client to deposit checks that have been issued without having my client waive its claims for that amount of money. To be clear, the amount withheld is in no way related to the quality of Smith's work. Smith Contracting's work never failed a single test on the project. Further, KSA, the city engineer on the project, made numerous statements about the exceptional quality of Smith Contracting's work. There simply is no dispute about the quality of my client's work. Why then is the engineering department refusing to pay Smith Contracting for its work? Well, the engineering department is attempting to withhold money for damages it claims it sustained due to supposed delays in completing the work. As we heard during the city manager's summary, that particular waste treatment plant in this particular phase is not complete, not due to any action of my client, but due to the actions of others. Any delay, any supposed delay that my client might have caused would have no impact on something that is still not completed. In short, I can assure the City Council that there are no damages that the engineering department can lawfully claim. So we get to the ultimate question. Why is the engineering department willing to jeopardize the city's reputation and risk a lawsuit over $47,000 and change? To be sure, the wastewater treatment plant project has a total budget of more than $30 million. In short, we are talking about less than 0.2% of the total project budget, yet the engineering department is looking for reasons to withhold my client's full payment. The main reason I'm here today is to satisfy a code of ordinance. Specifically, I'm here to satisfy my client's obligations under Bastrop Code of Ordinances 1.06.002, which requires my client to submit its complaint to the City Council before it can petition a court for relief. If the council either refuses my client's request for payment, or if it refuses to take a vote on such relief, the unfortunate result is that my client will instruct me to file suit so that my client can be granted the relief it deserves. Such litigation carries with it the risk that my client is awarded attorney's fees on top of the amount disputed and would be filed in Bastrop County Court or Bastrop County District Court and be a matter of public record. To conclude, I ask that the council ensure my client is paid in full so that we can put this matter behind us. If the council needs to hear the other side, I ask that this item be calendared on a future agenda for a presentation and a formal vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. For the record, would you state your name and address?
Yes, Ian Todd. My address is 1400 Rivery Boulevard. That's Georgetown, Texas, 78628.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, do we have any other general comments?
No, Mayor.
Thank you so much. We will now move to item 8, the consent agenda. Does anybody wish to pull anything off of the consent agenda, council? Does anybody in the audience wish to pull anything off of our consent agenda? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you will read the consent agenda.
The consent agenda reads as follows. Item 8A, consider action to approve City Council minutes from the August 22nd, 2023 regular meeting, August 28th, 2023 special meeting, and August 30th, 2023 special meeting. Item 8B, consider action to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2023-30 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, reallocating $167,000 of the hotel occupancy tax fund previously allocated to the fourth quarter of Visit Bastrop mid-year adjustment to fund repairs to the rodeo arena. Item 8C, consider action to approve second reading of ordinance number 2023-23 of the City of Bastrop, Texas, amending the Bastrop City Code of Ordinance, adding Article 1.21, payment by credit card or other electronic means, and adding Appendix A, fee schedule, Section A1.21, payment by credit card or other electronic means, providing for a processing fee for credit card payment of fees, fines, court costs, and other charges, providing for a service charge if payment of credit card is not honored, providing for findings of fact, enactment, repealer, severability, effective date, codification, and proper notice of meeting. Item 8D, consider action to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2023-29 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, amending the budget for the fiscal year 2023 in accordance with existing statutory requirements, appropriating the various amounts herein as attached in Exhibit A, repealing all prior ordinances and actions in conflict herewith, and establishing an effective date. This concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam City Secretary. It's been laid out. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from
Second.
Councilmember Lee, and I have a second from Councilmember Crouch. Madam Secretary, if you'll read the roll.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. The consent agenda passes unanimously. If Council, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to move agenda item 9L up to the forefront so the kids are here can move to go home and do their homework and get up in time for school. Let me read it out here real quick. Consider action to approve Resolution R 2023-138 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop confirming the Youth Advisory Council appointments of the mayor as required in Section 3.08 of the City Charter, providing for a repealing clause and establishing an effective date. Ms. Moore.
I am so excited that I have the opportunity to work with the Youth Advisory Council today. I am here to present to you three new members of the council. The three of y'all, come on up here. That is...
They're certainly eager to come up here.
They
aren't
are. They're so excited. They're going to get their picture made and everything. Tazani Ramirez Gayton. She is an 11th grader at Bastrop High School. We also have Diego Rangel. He's a 9th grader at Bastrop High School. And Isabella Molina Conrad, right? Is at Circa in the 9th grade. These three I'd like to present to you for appointment as new members of our advisory council.
Thank you so much. Anybody have any questions for Manager Moore? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland. Any further discussion? If not, Madam Secretary, if you'll read the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch.
If you would incline me to add that we have some of the previous members or the current members in the audience, I'd like for them to come up as well as Chris White. He is our liaison with BISD to get a picture of these awesome young people.
I think that's a great idea. Let's give these young folks a round of applause. While we're waiting for the photographer, these kids have stepped forward and have agreed to advise council on all things that do with youth. And if you'll look up at this dais, you'll notice that we need all the help we need with youthful ideas. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Manager Moore. I'm speaking for myself, of course. Thank you, Councilmember Lee. We will move back to the regular agenda. Item 9A, hold a public hearing and discussion regarding the proposed zoning concept scheme change for a planned development district for certain properties out of the Nancy Blakey Survey Abstract 98 located at the north corner of State Highway 71 and Settlement Drive within the city limits of Bastrop, more commonly known as Reed Ranch. Mr. Higgins or the city manager? City manager will be providing insight.
Do you prefer me at the podium?
You can do it from there as far as I'm
Great.
concerned.
No, better go to the podium.
Or at the podium.
Reminds me of my development services days. Oh, that was yesterday. Mayor and Council, thank you. So just for the record today, there was a change in the zoning. There was an error in the zoning report, not the zoning report, the zoning notice. And there was a portion of the property that was left out of that notice. So as a result, this cannot be acted upon. We can hear it. You can hear the residents' discussions, concerns, and that will further inform a future discussion when this item comes back through Planning Commission. It's got to go back to Planning Commission at the next meeting and get us into an October timeframe. So this is a planned development district. This was number 2 under the new ordinance that allowed some flexibility within the development itself. It connects at Highway 71 and Settlement Drive. It is intended to connect the Burleson East, Settlement, Reed Ranch, and then connect down through Highway 71. This is the location map. You can see this is Burleson East, this is existing settlement, and this is where Reed Ranch would connect. It is currently zoned P2 rural. The proposal is for a P4 and with a planned development district. So I like to call this a B3 light because the intent of the B3 code and the PDD is that the development intend to meet all of the base underlying zoning, including the grid streets, and this development intended to do that. So the developer is here. This is actually their presentation. I will let them go through the presentation. Essentially at Planning Commission voted to approve the PDD. However, they put some limitations to the development. They put a limitation that there would be no connection at Jessica, which is called on the master transportation plan. Again, part of the developer's requirement is that they intend to meet all of the stated plans. The master transportation plan has Blakey, which we'll discuss here in a little bit, has Blakey coming down, connecting, it kind of makes a curve and it connects to Jessica. That is in the stated master transportation plan. With this development, we have exaction of Blakey that gets us all the way down to 71. So Blakey would come across and make the turn down. We are in discussions with TxDOT over this parcel here, which would make a roundabout, which would connect at Highway 71, and that would make the connection back to Loop 150. Planning Commission further stated that the development that is along this area that abuts the backyard of about 4 homes in this area not be allowed to go more than 3-story. Not be allowed to go more than 2-story. And they said 2-story because there were already 2-story homes in that neighborhood. So a 2-story development wouldn't cause any more detrimental impact than a 2-story home next to you. Anything else in the development further away could go 3 and potentially 4 stories. That was an option to the developer to go potentially 4 stories along 71. I believe the developer is going to tell you they're not going to do 4 stories. Further, there was some discussion about future connection to Jessica and how that would play out. Through discussion back and forth, again, there was a discussion that no connection at Jessica would be made, and instead the connection around Blakey would come to Highway 71. So with that, I will let the applicant finish their presentation.
Thank you very much. Charlie Dorsanio here with the Drenner Group on behalf of the applicant. So I'll just introduce the company a little bit. Hayden Lunsford Commercial is, they've developed a variety of real estate projects across the state, but remain a family company. Hayden Lunsford of Holt Lunsford Commercial is here. Holt Lunsford Commercial, excuse me, is here as well to answer questions. Let's see, I got this going. So the company has direct experience with amenitized and connected multifamily developments. I like to show good examples in McKinney, Texas, called Cole Park.
Charlie, can you speak into the mic?
Yes. You hear me a little better here? So the pictures on the left are from Cole Park, and then the rendering on the right is what we're envisioning for the project, a walkable community and connected neighborhood. Some more sketches too. There's different styles that they've looked at. So I know it's been much discussed, the B3 code, but to go back in time, we got started working with this project, looking at the comprehensive plan and the B3 code in mind, right? The comprehensive plan says transitional residential, which suggests multifamily here, and the B3 code, what it's really looking for is connected streets, walkability, open space and amenities, and it does that a lot of times through small block perimeters. So that was something that we haven't always done, but we thought we could do here. And so we updated our plans to put together something that looked like, trying to get an image on this next one. Oh. Give it a second there. I'll just leave it here. So, as you can see, should I leave it?
Colin, can you help out? He's working on it.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Well, okay, there, great. So what we tried to put together were short block perimeters. So we pretty much intend to meet the 330 by 330 block perimeters. But what we wanted to do and was important to us is to maintain the streets and to maintain the civic space. That's something that we like to do in all of our projects. We think we do a great job of it, and of course the benefit to the city is that the city does not need to do that. So the other essential request that we're doing is we were worried about cars driving fast through the development. So as you can see at certain locations, the internal driveways terminate at walkway plazas. Sometimes they're called paseos, but I guess the good example is on the bottom where the street or where the drive goes through east-west, and then it terminates in trees and a walkway. And of course that makes it hard to speed down the street if you have to slam on the brakes. So we want it to be a slow streets connected community envisioned by the B3 code. So when you're looking for all of the ways we want it to vary from that code, it really is almost all boiling down to street and civic space management. So let's maybe, okay, great, the amended site plan. When we went to P&Z, we heard, from a lot of the public, and we want to be a good neighbor and entertain all reasonable requests. So the changes that were requested and that we're happy to make is that there be no outlet onto Jessica Place. There be no more than 2 stories for the units who back up to the single-family homes, and an allowance for 4 stories for units fronting Highway 71. So taking one of those each in place, we're open to not having Jessica Place be publicly accessible. We're open to hear what your recommendations are there. I think we can do that through an amendment to the text of the PDD. We're also open to 2 stories at those buildings in the bottom right. You see the new site plan, it denotes that they're 2 stories, offering to put landscaping there in between them. One slight change that we would request from P&Z is that, P&Z requested, on the fly, we were trying to make it work, that if we do any 4-story buildings, which we're not certain we'll do, that they be in that lot block 1 in phase 1, so in the top left. We would request that we only just be allowed to have one four-story building in Phase 2, which is the northern section. Of course, not the two-story buildings. So they'd be far back, and in our initial review, they'd be at least 315 feet from the single-family lots. The request there is that, in phasing, we don't want a lot more units to come online, all as part of Phase 1. We'd like to have a balanced approach there. So as I stated to the commission, we're happy to, consider any changes. We really do think that this is in line with what code has suggested to us. We want to be a good neighbor. We've offered to speak to anyone, continue to do so, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Council, have any questions for the developer representative or for our staff? Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one, and if you said it and I didn't hear you, I apologize. They also asked for some type of buffer along the Blakey Lane with the two-story.
Yes, they asked, I believe it was 30 feet. We're happy to do that. I think the buildings will be set back, much farther than that. So I didn't see that in the backup, but yeah, we're committing to that.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Meyer.
Yes, so I was at the P&Z meeting, and I just want to commend you and the Riverside Grove neighbors for coming and speaking, and our city manager, because that's what democracy was at that meeting. Everybody was working together, and I want to thank you, because it's not a lot of times we do have developers come in that are willing to listen, number one, and also make the changes that the neighborhoods neighboring want. So I just wanted to thank everyone that's involved in the process.
Thank you.
Councilmember Crouch.
My question's more for the city manager, I think, but if we dead end Jessica's Place, I know that there has to be some text because that's supposed to be a through road. So if we dead end that, I guess my only request for it would be that it's done aesthetically pleasing, because there's a lot of dead end roads. If you put bollards up or a gate or whatever, it ends up collecting a lot of trash and debris, and it doesn't look good, and it just looks like it's a dead end road. And if we could just do something, we don't have to put anything in this thing, but when we do that, if this passes, that we make that aesthetically pleasing for the dead end road and where it doesn't collect stuff.
One of the discussions Mr. Trevino raised, and you know who Mr. Trevino is. For you guys, my neighbors that don't know, that's my husband. The school that connects there, because we don't have a sidewalk on Jessica there, that it would be very good that at least the kids be able to connect, because Blakey has a sidewalk. Pearl River has 17 units to the north of that drawing that will be going up. Valverde, right across 969, has 1,000 residential units that will be going up. And so Blakey connects with a sidewalk all the way across. That at a minimum, a sidewalk or another paseo there be allowed so that the kids who are walking have a safer route and don't have to cut across 71. Even though the Burleson, the Ed Burleson widening, and TxDOT will be putting in a hike and bike trail, which is a wider sidewalk, along 71 for another safe route to school. It would at least allow connection for the children who attend both of those schools in that area.
Thank you. I'm glad we're thinking through that. I just could see that being a potential problem if we dead end that street, so thank you.
Great. Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
What are the bedroom configurations, like 2-bedroom apartments, 1-bedroom apartment, that kind of a thing?
Let me just take I'm not sure we have the final configurations, but I want to see what I have here. No, I only have the total units here.
Okay.
I can speak with Hayden and see if he knows it off the top of his head.
And the follow-on question to that would be, I think you referred to your developments as Class A developments, and I was curious about the anticipated rental cost, or the monthly rent.
Right, so after P&Z, we discussed what we think the rents are. Without providing specific numbers, we are looking to meet the market. So these aren't going to be, super luxury only for, people moving in from California. Like, we're aiming to meet, no offense to anyone moving from California. But we intend to meet the market for people who currently live in Bastrop and new workers and teachers and firefighters who are moving here.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Plunkett.
Yeah, I was definitely glad to hear some discussion about, kids walking to school, because, to me, it'd be crazy to have all those units there and not have a way for the kids to walk to the school that's right next door. So I appreciate that. And but I did want to talk about what your idea is for not connecting. I understand why it's a request from the neighborhood, although I would ask, and I don't know how you make this decision, because it would seem to me like it would be beneficial for the neighborhood, to have that connectivity over to Burleson Crossing. Although, I don't live in the neighborhood, so I don't have a dog in that fight. So, but I would suggest that proper thought be given to that. But in not providing the connection to Jessica, how do you see that changing what you have on here? Just not put the connection in and ignore it? And
Well, so we have a lot of ingresses and egresses.
Right.
If I were to put my, we basically drew the Blakey extension and Jessica's because we thought we were required to with the transportation master plan.
Understood. Yeah,
of course, we, as a basic concept, we think connectivity is a good option, and if you're asking for a preference, I would say we would probably prefer to have it open.
No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, my question is, what is your, if, and it seems as though that's the case, the neighborhood doesn't want the connectivity, then how do you just bring whatever that you're calling New Road, or if it stays Blakey, whatever it is, you just ignore that at that point? Do you stub it out, or what does that look like?
So this is that new road. This is Blakey, and it extends in this direction. This is the Jessica stub out. So their ingress and egress, like there's one right there. So there's no requirement for this stub out. Now, what you're going to see Fabiola present, the city engineer present later on today, is a Blakey project that shows connection at Jessica, because that's what the master plans call for. However, if with this development the council makes a decision that no, there won't be a connection at Jessica, then our Blakey plans also end up making the turn. I think one of the considerations for the Riverside Grove neighborhood, and in all full disclosure, I live there, is there are many twists and turns. You can't just, it's not a gridded neighborhood. And so you sort of get lost in there. And I think the feeling is if cars come in and they make this first turn, for example, right off of Jessica, you have to go through about 4 neighborhood streets to finally make your way through Charles. These are not homes where the cars are all parked in the driveway. They're parked on the side of the street, and so you already inherently have a traffic congestion problem. And so this first turn right off of Jessica to get to Charles, for example, you go a little bit further down Jessica and you end up connecting to Schaefer. You end up connecting to Schaefer, which ends up connecting to the school. So this, from a pedestrian standpoint, makes sense to move the kids back and forth. There's maybe a potential solution for a one-way or two-way, but really this is a difficult maze to navigate. I still get lost, and I've lived there for 10 months.
Another question? You good? Madam City Manager, for clarification, you said due to some procedural issue, we're not going to be able to take this up tonight, but we still need to have our public hearing.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. If there are no other questions for staff, we're going to open our public hearing. Madam Secretary, do we have any other requests to speak?
No, Mayor.
So I have the entire stack here. Thank you. Our first person scheduled to speak on item 9A is Jeff Alborn. If you'll state your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes. But we'll certainly wait till you get up here. Don't trip over anything.
All right. Good evening. 748 Merino Court, Bastrop, Texas. All right. I don't agree with the plan in general. For such a small space, so many units in an already congested area, with the shopping center right next door, the school, especially during when school session is in the mornings and evenings. I have to beat the buses in the morning to get to work, because if I get behind the buses, well, I'm 20, 30 minutes late. So, cramming so many people in such a small space, I don't care if it's a rich or poor neighborhood, there's always going to be a certain percentage of bad people out there. When you compile all that in together, you're just asking for trouble, people living on top of each other. My question is, does our police department and fire department have the equipment and personnel to service such a large complex with so many units? If catastrophe were to happen, apartment complex, the last one I lived in, a building did catch fire in the middle of the night, evacuated at about 1 o'clock in the morning. Fortunately, our building was all right. The building, 2 buildings over, was a complete loss. And that was Retreat of Barton Creek, 2016 on South Lamar. And with that said as well, that fire was caused by an ashtray that hadn't been dumped out. There's always going to be that one who either has an ashtray on a porch or patio, or has that mini tailgating grill that's not supposed to be there. There's always going to be that one. It might not happen the first year, might be 10 years down the line. There's always going to be that individual that ruins it for everybody else. And if for some reason that does happen and our first responders aren't properly equipped, they don't have the personnel, they don't have the proper trucks. I believe the city of Bastrop has 100-foot quint, if I pronounce that right. If multiple buildings were to catch on fire, do we have enough support in there? I'm not doubting our first responders, not to go in there regardless, putting their lives at even more risk to get everybody out. We've already talked about the traffic. You're adding 1,000+ cars around a school. Kids, number one. People, you're talking about bike trails, sidewalks. You can add all the stop signs, crosswalks, lights, school zone, stop signs. When it comes down to it, nothing's illegal until you get caught. With all those people, someone's going to blow a stop sign, someone's going to go through the red light. With all that extra traffic, the probability just keeps going up. Also, the traffic could negatively affect our home values through the neighborhood. That was already discussed. The streets are narrow. People park on the street. Half our street lights don't even work. Most of the streets don't have sidewalks on both sides. I don't think any of them do. And majority of the mailboxes don't even have sidewalks leading to them. That's also included on Jessica Place and on Schaefer. People have to walk on the road or on the side of the road in the dirt to get to their mailbox. And these are the community-style mailboxes, so it's just not one person.
Mr. Alborn, your 3 minutes has expired. We appreciate your comment.
Oh, my wife's going to kill me if I don't say the last thing.
Say the last thing.
Okay. She would like to see in the development better options for women's health care, prenatal care, same-day walk-in for pediatric care. She's part of a couple women's groups here in Bastrop, and I guess the women are tired of driving to Austin to see a doctor and take care of a child. Thank you.
I hope you survived.
Thank you.
Thank
I owe
you.
one.
Thank you. The next person scheduled to speak on this item is Keith Alborn. If you'll state your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes. But it doesn't start till you get here, so don't worry about it.
Keith Alborn, 201 Bryant. I'm on the corner of Bryant and Jessica. I've expressed my concerns in the last meeting. Traffic, you've got 625 units, probably 12 to 1,400 vehicles. I don't know where you're going to dump them all, but if they come Jessica, that's traffic, as we know. I've spoken to some realtors in the area. We live right there on the corner. You will devalue our property value on our home if this traffic goes through. Now, I don't know if you're going to offer accommodations for this, but devaluation of property is kind of a personal item for us. We've only been here a year and a half, and I don't want to see this happen to us so soon. Also, the other question I had was if you had any input from school, from middle school. Do they have the capacity to hold additional students? I have you, or you're not going to answer? Or?
This is your time to comment.
Oh, okay. I just wondered if they had commented. I tried to get a hold of them and got no response, so I didn't know. I don't know if there's an equation that they use for apartments and buildings and bedrooms equates to students, and just seeing if they had to figure out if that's going to have a direct impact on their capabilities of their school. So, anything else? That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Mayor, for the record, we do meet with the school district very frequently. They are aware of all of the development plans that are going through. They are very excited for Blakey to punch through in order to get transportation through there, and did not show any concern about the school not having potential to occupy.
Thank you, Madam City Manager. Next person scheduled to speak is William Hinkston. If I mess up anybody's name, y'all point it out to me, and I'll try to get it correct. Need you at the microphone. No. I need you at the microphone. Now say what you
Forgive me, folks, I'm not used to this.
I understand. Now you can introduce
My
yourself
name
and your
is Bill
address.
Hinkston. I live at 617 Blair Avenue. I am a contractor in this area, and I know the area very, very, very well. Two things I'd like to address. I'd like to address the children that walk across Jessica to get to their homes. No sidewalks, and those kids are on their cell phones, folks, and they ain't watching what they're doing. And so that's something that we need to address. And putting traffic on Jessica, trying to get out of there when it comes to kids getting out of school. Folks, you don't live there. Please understand, I'm not being critical, but you don't live there, but we do. And we're the ones that have to deal with the traffic. Not only that, folks, I don't know if our school system can handle it, because we're already about 20 teachers short in the Bastrop school system right now. So that's something we have to consider. You know, and please understand, we live there. So we actually see it and we understand what's going on. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your consideration, and thank you very much, okay?
Thank you, sir. Next person registered to speak is Kathy and/or Billy Martin. They do not wish to speak, but they're opposed to this project or this item. Next person does not wish to speak, Kelly Warner of 749 Bill's Circle. She is in opposition of this item. Next person is Barbara McKenzie, does not wish to speak, but is in opposition to this item. Next person registered to speak, make sure that they want to speak, is Cynthia Eck of 206 Jennifer Lane. She is in opposition of this item. I'm sorry, she is supportive of this item. Please forgive me. Next person registered to speak is Kevin Lippy Malby. Not here. He wishes to speak or he registered that he was in support of this item. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item? Did y'all? Well, if you want to speak, you need to sign up and provide the paper. I don't want y'all to miss an opportunity, but I also want to make sure we move the agenda along. Appreciate this. Whoever gets through first, if you'll provide your paper to the city secretary and then walk up and provide us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes once you do that. Oh, you win, but no prize. Name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Ray Matthews. I live at 747 Merino Court in Bastrop, Texas. I've been at the Riverside Grove subdivision since 2014. I have multiple properties in the neighborhood. I want to first off thank all of you guys for your time, because you guys have a very difficult job, and I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing. The way that the decisions that you're making have a vast impact on our community and the quality of our life. When I first came to Bastrop, one of the things that attracted me was the big wide open fields with the cows, the pine forests. I felt close to nature coming out here. It was a small town. It had that small town vibe with this. Texas is the land of big wide open spaces, and it's the home of the free. When I came back from Iraq, this is the place where I wanted to settle and spend my time until I got into my retirement. Peace and tranquility are one of those things that it's intangible, it's priceless. And when I see 600 apartments, I know that people are thinking dollar signs and money, and no offense, but it's probably tax base and revenue. I've got no problems with development, because I know that we are in a housing crisis and that we need housing, but the way in which we build that housing and the decisions and the plans and the subcommittees, it will have a dramatic impact on the quality of the current residents and the future residents. That being said, our neighborhood is very much in support of a single-family neighborhood. We don't like the idea of apartments going up right next door. The traffic is a big concern for us because of the kids. They play right there in the streets, right in front of us, and we all want to protect those kids. So we don't want people definitely going through that. Sidewalks, that's one thing. Big apartments with 600 units. I'm with 201 feet away from this property, and having 600 neighbors drop in your backyard, it's going to do a lot for the peace and the tranquility of the environment. And I work nights, so having people up, I've already have a hard time sleeping as it is. I just wanted to say, take into consideration the community and the desires of the neighborhood. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Ma'am, it's your time. Now I can introduce you. Jackie Gallagher, if you'll state your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes.
Jackie Gallagher, 140 Shoreline Drive, Bastrop, Texas. I've lived in Bastrop for over 30 years, and like he just said, I moved here because of the peace and tranquility, which there isn't any much left. But my concern is we are being asked daily to conserve water and conserve electricity, and what is being done with all of this development, in particular 600 more units or 2,000 to 4,000 more people, that will help us when we're being asked to conserve water. I mean, how much can we conserve when you continue to build? So I just want to know what we have in place to prevent us from running out of water, because I really feel like this last summer was just, is going to be the norm. And so there is going to constantly be a water shortage. And with the temperatures over 100, that is going to impact the electricity that everyone uses and draws. And that is one of my biggest concerns, because we're being asked to, basically let everything in our yard die because they don't want us to water and waste water, which I understand. But at the same time, it takes all of us to conserve. And I just don't see that happening with more units like this coming in, and I am very much opposed to it, just in case you hadn't figured that out already. And that's all I have to say, and those are my concerns about the grid. We're already taxing the grid more than we should. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do we have another late show? I want to give everybody the opportunity. Please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Martin Finley, and I live at 745 Moreno Court. And I just want to tell you, I'm one of the founding members of Riverside Grove. I've been there for 22, 23 years, something to that effect. And it's a good place to live. I am very concerned that you're coming up with the idea of putting all that traffic through our streets. You're going to, and put those apartments. Is this government-owned housing? Is this low-income housing? That's my question for you. But you're putting a lot of people out there, and when you do that, our property values are going to go down. Crime goes up, people cause problems. And if you were trying to dream of the worst place that you could put all those apartments, you picked it. And so I beg you to change this. We like single-family dwellings. That's fine. Keep the apartments. Keep your traffic, keep all your crime and all that out of our Riverside Grove. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that very much. I will remind everyone that this is not a project of the city of Bastrop. This is a private venture and private property rights and everything like that. We understand your concerns, and city council, who every one of us live within the city limits of Bastrop, so we understand the concerns. We're citizens also, so thank you so much. We will now close this public hearing, and as the city manager pointed out earlier, we will not be taking any action on this item due to some procedural issues.
Do we need to do a motion to table, or we just won't take action? Okay.
No need. Thank you, though. Moving on to item...
For the residents' information, it will be held at the next Planning Commission meeting, which is October 5th.
There you go. So please come out and voice your concerns. Thank you. Council, we'll move on to item 9B. Hold a public hearing and consider action to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2023-36, approving the Burleson Crossing East zoning concept scheme, changing the zoning for 19.81 acres out of the Nancy Blakey survey from P5 core to a planned development district, PDD, with a P5 core based zoning as shown in attachment 2, located on northeast corner of State Highway 71, Edward Burleson Drive, within the city limits of Bastrop, Texas, and moved to include on the September 19th, 2023 agenda for a second reading. Madam City Secretary. Our city manager, I'm so sorry.
I was waiting, like, is Ann gonna present? What's
For
going
both
on?
sides, I heard,
So Mayor and Council, this is a development that is familiar to everybody. This is Burleson Crossing East. You heard this development last year and prior to, and it came to you with 25 warrants. The PDD that we're bringing to you today is cleaning up some of those warrants, putting it into a development agreement, and correcting some alignment issues along Blakey, actually. So the here's a let me see. This is probably the best area. So the development will have improvements along Ed Burleson. The development also continues to keep this punch out, which is Wagon Wheel, but as opposed to it being a public street, this is going to be a private street. It will be maintained by the developer. It'll look like a street, act like a street, be landscaped like a street, have sidewalks like a street, except we will not maintain it. The connection at the back at Blakey, we ended up working through a development agreement to consider a portion of this reserve. We know Blakey cannot punch out straight across without taking out this daycare center. So there's got to be some curve alignment that happens. As opposed to exacting this entire right of way from the developer that we know we're not going to be able to use without that curve, we took this as reserve for a period of years. I believe the period is 3 years. If we don't end up acquiring this property, then this goes back to the developer for their use. Blakey continues, as we stated in the prior development, and continues to make the turn. There's also improvements along Highway 71 in conjunction with TxDOT that makes this a safe route to school. And in addition, the flag-shaped lots that had been created now are their own individual lots. So there's detention here, and then the road. So one of the items that we couldn't quite work ourselves out of in the B3 code is these flag-shaped lots that would have been created with the creation of these lots. So what the PDD allows now is everything that the council had approved before, except now we've got some flexibility. If this retailer, for example, wants to move up or move across, we handle this at the staff level. The preliminary drainage plan has been met. The transportation impact analysis has been met. So this development now is ready. Once approved by council, the preliminary plat will come through the Planning Commission, and then we will continue to move forward to get to a point of finally breaking ground. As with the other developments, settlement connects. Here's Ed Burleson settlement. No, this is Wagon Wheel. Wagon Wheel connects. It comes to the settlement. It will connect through that Reed Ranch, and it'll make its connection to Blakey down to 71. There was a question previously about landscaping. All of the areas in green are landscaped areas. They will be tree and grass. There are some of the improvements along Highway 71. So there is an additional turning lane on 71, so we don't have what I call the Chick-fil-A effect, right, of folks backing up. So they will have a dedicated turning lane to get off, with some widening at Ed Burleson as well. He meets the civic space requirements, et cetera, et cetera. So what is required in a PDD to be shown is the deviation from the code. Again, these are all previously approved warrants. The 330 by 330 was probably the most contentious to get through in terms of block size, because as we described before, what it would have looked like, yes, this is what it would have looked like with streets throughout. The Planning Commission and Council came to a good medium with the developer, and these, what's in pink, are connectivity and sidewalks. All of these were the warrants. It's a long list. So happy to take any questions.
Council, any questions for the city manager? Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one. I've stared at this thing 50 million times, but I remember there was a big conversation about frontage on Highway 71 and parking in the back. So, and I'm just asking because I can't tell from the photo. So is this structure that's facing 71, is that the front of the structure and then the parking will,
No.
in essence, be in the back, or how is that going to be
No,
organized?
it's internal. It's internal. But again, this is one of the site development issues that if this building orientation needs to change because the retailer wants to change it, we have the flexibility within the PDD to do
Okay.
that.
That's what I was wondering, if we were just going to see a wall there with greenage, or I couldn't remember where we ended on that. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions, City Manager, prior to me opening this up for public comment? Public hearing? Seeing none, I'm going to open public hearing. And we have several people scheduled to speak. Joe Grady Tuck.
Mr. Mayor, I was actually signing up to speak in favor of 9C.
You are correct. Madam Secretary, do we have anybody, I have a lot of pieces of paper up here, Joe. Do we have anybody scheduled to speak on this subject?
No, Mayor.
Seeing no one's scheduled to speak, public hearing is now closed. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Councilmember Meyer. Do I have a
Second.
second? I have a second from Councilmember Crouch. Any further discussion, council? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion passes unanimously. Council, prior to going into item 9C, we're going to go into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071. Council is in executive session. Yeah. It is 8:57. Council is back from executive session. We're now into regular session. Item 9C, consider action to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2023-28, Council City of Bastrop, amending the Visit Bastrop Corporation budget and creating a Fourth Amendment to the Visit Bastrop Agreement and move to include on the September 19, 2023 council agenda for second reading. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a continuation of the discussion from the last council meeting regarding the Visit Bastrop budget and any proposed reduction and an amendment, a fourth amendment to the agreement. So as part of last council meeting's discussion, Councilmember Meyer made a request for a reduction of 15% in the Visit Bastrop budget and an increase of 15% to 4 community assets. Colin, can you go to the next slide? Next one out. Oh, I'm sorry, go back, sorry. So the FY24 proposed budget for Visit Bastrop is 1.7 million, 1.741 million, and this does not include the 75% special event funding. This is the hot pass-through that they allocate for the city. The 15% was taken off the 1.7 million, which would be a reduction of $261,150. The community assets were funded at $528,875. They had a zero increase in the proposed FY24 budget, which led to Councilmember Meyer's request for a 15% increase. That 15% increase adds up to $79,331. There's $181,000 that would fall to fund balance, almost $182,000 that would fall to fund balance in the hot fund to be reserved for future uses, and or if the Visit Bastrop budget would be amended again. Next slide, Colin. So the increase to the community assets, the visitor center was previously budgeted at $162,986. It would go to $187,434 for an increase of $24,478. The museum was previously funded at $88,411. That would go to $101,673, an increase of $13,262. The opera was funded at 147,818, and that would go to 169,991, and that's an increase of 22,173. The Lost Pines Art Center, 129,660, with an increase to 149,109, and that would go to 19,449 for a total increase of 79,332. There's a rounding error in there. Next slide, Colin. The terms to the Visit Bastrop contract is, there's the 15% reduction, which is a maximum of 35% of hot funds after all of the required obligations are set. There would be a ceiling of X amount, and that's what the council would make a determination today. There's a request that they begin to diversify revenue and a request for improved support to the community assets. We have heard from several of our community assets about the support they need from Visit Bastrop, specifically for marketing, perhaps additional discounts, et cetera, in the magazine, all of that to be determined. And I believe, after discussion, there is a discussion on the terms of the contract, and I believe a council member would like to make an annual appropriation or a biannual appropriation, so I will let the council have that discussion.
Thank you, ma'am. Council, any questions for our city manager? We do have a number of people signed up to speak on this particular agenda item, and if y'all have no question for the city manager, I'm going to call them up. Joe Grady Tuck, he left. He was speaking in favor of this item. Sean Plesh, she wished to speak in opposition to this item. Carrie Fossler. Oh, I'm sorry, Sean, you are there. Please, geez, don't give her my gavel. State your name and address, and you'll be given 3 minutes.
Sean Pletch, 1010 Pecan. I just wanted to go back and give a little background on the DMO, because I think I might be the only person that was here when that was happening back in the olden days. After the convention center was okayed, it needed to be paid for. And that turned into a search for the best marketing approach to get people here to spend money. Years, literally years, were spent investigating. And after many community-wide and internal meetings and machinations and mountains of money spent on research and consultants, the model offering the most success for our community was decided to be the current 50% net threshold application. The final contract in 2017 read, whereas the Bastrop City Council recognizes that tourism represents the purest form of economic development and is instrumental to stabilizing and growing the city's sales tax base. The directive was to support and ensure equal representation across the city's tourism resources, so to lift all boats. So everybody would benefit, all the hospitality players would benefit, the community would benefit. But because the DMO was enjoined from singling out any one area or activity, certain legacy assets were to receive additional support from a different mechanism. Those included the Museum and Visitor Center, Opera House, and Art Center. But the list was then and is now fluid. I mean, it could be the rodeo, or it could be whatever anybody chooses it to be. It comes out of a different pot than the money that's allocated to the DMO. Out of many organizational models worldwide, the 50% net threshold application offers the most success for Visit Bastrop's mandate to market these community assets. And there were 12 of them. That was written into the contract. There was some confusion about the term assets, because in our contract, assets are talking about the assets that Bastrop offers to the community. The film, the entertainment, nightlife, recreation, outdoors, retail, sports, restaurants, history, arts, hotels, and Hyatt. So the assets we are talking about are those assets that the community has. The assets that somehow got named assets are different. So that was the first problem. So I think now everybody understands that what we see as assets of the whole community are intended to lift all boats.
Ms. Pless, you do know that 3 minutes is up.
Nope, I didn't. I did not. I'm sorry.
Can if you have a wrap-up, go ahead.
I have a wrap-up. Debt service and Visit Bastrop received the biggest pieces of the hot pie, but several $100,000 remain available for city tourism expenditures. We believe the model delivered and has, as regularly reported to y'all, the original budget still serves the city needs. We urge its adoptions. So we're requesting that the original budget of 1.816 stay. We're requesting to table the percentage amendment and to increase the community assets from the separate fund to what they asked for in the first place.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next registered to speak is Carrie Fossler. Please approach, give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Carrie Fossler. I live at 1903 Main Street in downtown Bastrop, and I'm currently the chair of Visit Bastrop. And I want to talk about two things. One is words, and as Sean mentioned, in our original scope, we did use the word community assets, and we also refer to them now as industry sectors. But it was the 12 assets of the community, the broad representation of arts, history, hotels, restaurants, retail, sports, outdoors, recreation, Hyatt, nightlife, entertainment, and film. And we Visit Bastrop, one of our eighth whereases, we will provide global oversight of our visitor assets and activities to provide a level of unity and representation to maximize Bastrop's brand potential. And I think we do that really well for our assets of the community, for our industry sectors. And so that's one thing I wanted to just mention, is that in the recommendation, it was talked about how the community assets are supposed to be the primary benefactor to Visit Bastrop. And while we agree with that, we want to broaden that to how we use the word community assets in our scope of services, which is all the assets of the community. I want to, as the chair, I just want to show our support. Like we want to be the best community partner, absolutely, to all of our community partners. We want to be the best at global oversight of all of our assets, and we want to be the best bragger of all of our assets of the community and our community assets. So I want you to know that that's very, very important to us, to be very good global oversight and very good braggers of our community assets. We support the council's desire to give the community assets increase their budget by 15%. We absolutely support this. And we are also requesting a tabling of the rest of the agenda item 9C that would reduce our budget by 15%. There will be a time very soon, very, very soon, when we are all at the table, all together, giving this a thoughtful, mutual discussion like the previous amendments, and this time is not now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next registered to speak is Robert Kraft. Mr. Kraft he does not wish to speak, but he's in opposition to the agenda item. The next registered to speak is Nicole de Guzman. Hi, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Nicole de Guzman, Executive Director of the Museum and the Visitor Center at 904 Main Street, Bastrop. Good evening, council members, Mayor Pro Tem, and Mayor. I'm here to discuss HOT funding for the Museum and Visitor Center. The community assets occasionally provide the council with a 10-minute presentation about our funding requests, and this year we were not invited. The council briefly discussed community asset funding on August 22nd, and there was a question about what we would do with additional funding. and that's something that I would like to share with you tonight. The Visitor Center requested a 31% increase, and the museum requested a 23% increase. We are serving unsurpassed visitor traffic this year with 15,359 people. To compare, we assisted 11,625 people in fiscal year 2022 and 7,582 people in fiscal year 2021. This tremendous increase in tourism is partly due to our outreach programs and events. We have an events director, Nancy Wood, who many of you know through her work on Yesterfest, First Friday Art Walk, Music in the Museum, and the Save Our Bridge event. We need support outside of the current sponsorship we obtain. Our events budget of $0 is unsustainable, and a portion of our request is to continue to produce unique tourism events. In addition, we seek a COLA increase for staff to improve our customer service starting salary of $13 an hour. There are incremental increases per category, such as office supplies, where we currently have 5 staff members sharing $1,500. Also, the cost of janitorial services has increased, and we now have the only public restroom on Main Street cleaned once a week. As the first experience most tourists encounter, we pride ourselves on providing award-winning customer service for visitors traveling worldwide. Visitors from all over the world call the museum and request assistance with Bastrop history and preservation. We currently accept 2 to 3 requests per week, which takes several hours per request. We preserve documents, artifacts, and letters supporting each unique historical request. We anchor the Bastrop tourism experience and have requested additional funding to increase visitation and meet tourist expectations. I thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Next scheduled speaker is Shara Johnson. Give us your name and address, and I'll give you 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening. I'm
Can you
Shara.
get closer?
Good evening. I'm Shara Johnson. I live at 1403 Main Street, and I didn't realize I would be following Nicole. She said everything that I wanted to say. I just wanted to register my support for item 9C and Councilmember Myers' proposal to increase funding for the community assets, the museum, visitor center, art center, and Opera House for 15%. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next, registered to speak is Ashton LaFuente. LaFuente. Thank you. You have 3 minutes. State your name and address, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ashton LaFuente. I am the Director of Marketing for Visit Bastrop, and my address is 154 Paholaway Lane. Good evening to everyone, Council, Mayor, City Manager. Thank you for allowing me a brief moment to share my thoughts regarding Agenda Item 9C. First, I would like to speak in wholehearted support of increasing the budgets for our community assets, the Bastrop Museum and Visitor Center, the Lost Pines Art Center, and the Bastrop Opera House, to allow them to continue doing and expand on the great work that they already do. Visit Bastrop considers ourselves a partner with these assets, as a large portion of our marketing efforts are derived from the programming that these community assets provide. With that, I would like to respectfully request that Council consider tabling the rest of Agenda Item 9C and the proposed Fourth Amendment to Visit Bastrop's agreement to allow for the necessary conversations to occur before making such a major change to our current agreement and scope of work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, do we have anybody else registered to speak on this item?
No, Mayor.
Okay, Council, the city manager has laid out this agenda item.
Actually, Mayor, I would like to make one comment to clarify
Certainly.
some of the miscommunication. If you look in the staff report, you will see that the baseline Visit Bastrop budget for last year was $1.2 million. Even with the reduction, the base budget for this year is $1.47 million. I want to make that abundantly clear. 1.2 to 1.4. It is still a net increase. the hot fund is healthy. There are community assets that require, but I'll also remind the council that we have ceilings according to statute, 15% to the arts. We are well within that 15% ceiling every year. There is room, but as I warned you before, there are multiple push and pulls on the hot funds that are coming your way in the coming months in the council executive sessions.
Thank you, Madam City Manager. All right, Council, the City Manager has laid out and provide clarification on this agenda item. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. Move to approve Resolution 2023-28, approving the Fourth Amendment to the Destination Marketing Agreement.
I have a motion by Councilmember Crouch. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Myers. Any further discussion, Council?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment.
Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to first thank you all for staying so late and allowing us to thoughtfully discuss this agenda item. I think it's very important on both sides for Visit Bastrop and our community assets. I fielded a lot of phone calls over the weekend and through today. I had a lot of discussions about the pros and cons of doing it between community assets and members of Visit Bastrop, and now having had a discussion with our council, I feel like it's just for me and for the community. I feel like anything that I am going to make a decision on, it's important to me that people know why I'm making the decision the way that I'm making it. I think both entities are important to the community. I wish that I could increase the community assets to full ask, something I inquired about because I think it's deserving. I also inquired about making not so much of a drastic drop in the budget for Visit Bastrop. Information was received that has formed the decision that I will be making here on the dais, and neither one will be able to satisfy my desire to increase all community assets to their full ask or keep Visit Bastrop at the baseline budget they're requesting. So I just feel that it's important that the public understands from my perspective the reason why I'm voting the way that I'm voting, and it's because of additional information that I've received that, as City Manager just pointed out, funding is needed in other areas that would be important as well. So again, I want to thank you all for coming out, for participating in this process, and I want you to continue to do the work that you're doing in the community because it's very important. And I think that every one of us sitting up here, we want to be helpful in any way that we can, and financially, anything that we can do on the dais that we can within legal right do, we're willing to consider it. But we do sometimes have to make hard decisions, and I hope that you'll be understanding of that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Plunkett.
Yeah, I'd echo a lot of what Councilmember Lee had to say, but Visit Bastrop, I was on the original full board, at least, that was formed, and it's been a very important part of. It was really the reason I got into local politics to begin with, and I think it's important that council and the Visit Bastrop, board, at least representatives from there, sit down and discuss this, and so that we both know where each other is coming from. It seems as though there's a bit of a standoff at this point, and I think this action will hopefully, my hope is that it facilitates that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Council, we've had discussion, we've had a motion, we have a second. No further discussion. Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Crouch,
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion passes unanimously. We will move on to agenda item 9D. Hold public hearing to consider action to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2023-33 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, adopting a budget for fiscal year 2023-2024, that is October 1, 2023 through September 30th of 2024, attached as Exhibit A, making certain appropriations, providing the expenditures for said fiscal year be made in accordance with said budget, updating the master fee schedule, providing a distribution, severability, repealer, and effective date, proper notice, meeting, and move to include on the September 19, 2023 agenda for a second reading. Ms. Allen.
Good evening. Just to recap, the City Council held a budget planning session April 19th and May 12th to discuss the City Council priority going into the FY24 budget presentation. In addition to that, the City Manager presented the budget on July 25th, in addition to the budget workshops held August 15th and 16th. So not to beat a dead horse, I feel like we have touched the budget a lot. Just to do a high-level summary, these are some of the items that have been changed since the presentation of the FY24 budget on July 25th. Some of the budget changes that were reached at the workshop was the community support funding has been changed, made to increase levels in several organizations. These changes increase the proposed budget by $8,000. In addition, set aside $25K for 1099 help as needed, as well as $73K in additional for total police hour funding. To highlight some changes to the proposed budget, we did increase the amount for revenue regarding the general debt service ad valorem tax rate, which would increase total revenue by $74.4 million. Changes to the expenditures, just to highlight the community support of $8,000, the $25K for the professional services, and the police patrol would change the total expenditures by a total of $106K. Section 6.05 of the city charter states, after the public hearing, the council shall analyze the budget, making any additions or deletions considered appropriate, and shall at least 3 days prior to the beginning of the fiscal year adopt the budget by favorable votes. As a result, we have a second reading of the ordinance on the September 19th at the regular scheduled council meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, Mayor and Council, there, based on your Visit Bastrop discussion, there'll be an additional amendment to the budget. There'll be additional changes. There'll be another slide at your next meeting.
For the 19th.
Yes, sir.
All right, council, you've heard the presentation of Ms. Allen. Is there any questions for Ms. Allen or for our city manager? Seeing none, but we do have Mr. Kirkland.
I would like to make a request to amend the fees section of the budget as well, to add a fee for, and this comes straight out of the charter of the city of Bastrop, contempt in failing or refusing to obey a subpoena or provide books, papers, or other evidence requested in a subpoena. And the state maximum fee for that is $500.
So we would add that as an appendix item in the budget. I don't have a historical for that, so the projection would be 0. It wouldn't change the revenue.
Correct,
It would just be,
right.
okay.
Is that it, Mayor Pro Tem?
That's it.
Seeing no further discussion indicated, I will entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold back. This is, we need to hold our public hearing.
Yes.
I will now hold the public hearing. Madam Secretary, do we have anybody that wishes to speak on this agenda item?
No, Mayor.
Then I will close the public hearing, as no one wanted to speak on that. Now I will entertain a motion.
I motion that we approve the first reading of the budget with the additions to the Visit Bastrop and the fee that I just discussed.
And the community assets.
And the community assets, yes, thank you.
And also to include into our next agenda on the September 19th.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland, and I have a second from Councilmember Meyer. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mayor. Clarification on
Councilmember Lee.
the amendment. The edit that Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland is making. Can you repeat what we'll actually be voting on?
We are voting on passing the budget with the 3 changes that we have discussed here today. The first one was the budget for Visit Bastrop. The second one was the community assets funding. And then the third one was adding a fine into the statement of fines in the fees in the
For
budget.
the credit card?
No, no, no.
That's what I'm confused on.
Got it. So I'll read that. It's and this wording comes directly out of the city charter. It's a contempt in failing or refusing to obey a subpoena or provide books, papers, or other evidence requested in a subpoena. And the maximum that we can set that fine to is $500, and I'm proposing we set it at $500.
Okay, thank you.
Council, are we clear?
Yes.
Any other discussion?
Do you have a second?
I do have a second, yes. We have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland and a second from Councilmember Meyer. No further discussion. Madam Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion passes unanimously. We will move on to agenda item 9E, which is to hold a public hearing and consider action to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2023-34, the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, adopting the tax roll, adopting the tax rate, and levying ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2023-2024 to provide for the payment of budgeted municipal expenditures and providing for tax assessment, record severability, and effective date, proper notice and meeting, and move to include on the September 19, 2023 council consent agenda. Ms. Allen, is this yours again?
A quick overview. Ad valorem tax rates are made up of 2 components. One is the operating maintenance, referred to as the O&M, and the other is the interest and sinking. The proposed budget was prepared with the O&M tax rate of 0.3032 and the INS rate of 0.1962 for a total tax rate of 0.4994.
There you go.
That would be helpful. For a total of 0.4994. The rate used in this budget is $93,669 more than the no new revenue rate, which is 1.6% higher. This budget will raise more revenue from property tax than last year's budget by the amount of $3,890, which is 8% increase from last year's budget. The property tax revenue is to be raised from new property tax added to the tax roll. This year is $353,885.
Just to be clear, the budget will raise more than $594,389.
Thank you. Let's go back. This is an average taxable homestead value compared to the prior year and this year. The average home value is $288,371. This does break out how the O&M and INS rate would affect each portion, and the average homeowner would see an increase of about $128 with this new rate.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything you want to add to this, Madam City Manager?
No, sir.
Okay, council, it's been laid out by Ms. Allen. Do you have any questions for Ms. Allen before I open this up for public hearing? Seeing none, we are open for the public hearing. Madam Secretary, do we have anybody who wishes to speak on this agenda item?
No, Mayor.
Seeing no one wants to speak on this item, we are closing the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion. I will alert you, council, that we need to be very specific in this motion as laid out by Ms. Allen in her presentation.
I move that the property tax be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.49994 per valuation, which is effectively a 1.6% increase in the tax rate.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lee. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Crouch. Is there any further discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Can you read that again? There was 3 nines in what you read instead of 2? No, there's supposed to be 2. Yeah.
Gotcha. I'll reread.
Restate your motion, please, ma'am.
Minus a 9. I move that the property tax be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.4994 per valuation, which is effectively a 1.6% increase in the tax rate.
Per $100 valuation.
Per $100 valuation, which is effective a 1.6% increase in the tax rate.
Thank you, ma'am. Are we clear, council? We have a motion by Councilmember Lee. We have a second by Councilmember Crouch. I see no further discussion. Madam Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion passes unanimously. We will be revisiting this again next Tuesday. Item 9F has been removed from the agenda at the request of the city manager due to some procedural process. We'll move to 9G. Consider action to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2023-24 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, an attractive land described as 104.6 plus or minus acres of land out of the Nancy Blakey Survey, abstract number A98, located west of Farm to Market Road 969 is shown in Exhibit A, providing for findings of fact, adoption, repeal, or severability, filing and enforcement, establishing an effective date, providing for proper notice and meeting, and move to include on the September 19th, 2023 agenda for a second reading. Madam City Secretary, our city manager, I am so sorry.
That's okay, Mayor. This is part of a development agreement that we refer to as the Valverde subdivision. It had other names before it. It is north of Highway 71 and west of 969. The development agreement was to require annexation at a later point in time. It is a total of almost 400 acres. This is phase 1. It's 104.6 plus or minus. It does include a public improvement district for some of the improvements. And the original development agreement contemplated annexation at the time of final plat of the final section. Our 1445 with the county requires some standards to be met that the city requires, but the county does not want to accept. So as opposed to go through a rigmarole again with the county, the developer has opted to annex this portion as they move forward, and we will begin to pursue annexation later on in the further phases. Staff recommends approval of the annexation.
Okay, Council, City Manager has laid out this agenda item. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
I have a motion from Councilmember Plunkett. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Crouch. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to item 9H, consider action to approve Resolution 2023-140 of the City Council, City of Bastrop, Texas, approving an agreement for emergency communication services between Bastrop County and the City of Bastrop, attached as Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents, providing for a repealing clause, and establishing an effective date. Chief Stefanik.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I have a short presentation requesting approval for the City of Bastrop to renew an agreement with Bastrop County Communications for services for police and fire. The proposed agreement would be effective October 1st, 2023, with a term of 2 years. Each year would be a cost of $325,000. This is a decrease of just under $6,000 per year from the previous contract. Dispatch services include a dedicated city dispatcher on a 24/7 basis, communications dispatches for several surrounding agencies. Dispatch is located in the business park under the direction of the Bastrop County Sheriff's Department. Each quarter, there is a meeting between the Director of Dispatch and/or the Police and Fire Chief. Bastrop County Communications will provide dispatchers, equipment, and dispatch training. Here are a few statistics reference our dispatch calls. For example, the total number of dispatch calls for calendar year 2022 was 109,797. Of these calls, 24,080, which is approximately 21.9%, were for the City of Bastrop Police Department. The remaining 85,717 were dispatched to about 8 or more agencies within the county. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Chief. Is there any questions for the Chief? This will alert council, this money is within our budget right now. We're ready to execute. This is an excellent working relationship with the county and emergency communication. Say again?
I said I wouldn't go that far. But we are improving.
Yes, we are.
At one point, we thought we were going to do our own dispatch because things had deteriorated. So yes, we are improving.
But we are working to improve the relationship. All right, Council. You've heard the Chief's presentation. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Lee and a second from Councilmember Meyer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you will, call the roll.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion passes unanimously. We will move on to agenda item 9I, consider action to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2023-31 of City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas. The Bastrop Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, the Bastrop Building Block B3 Technical Manual, Article 4.1, Plat Submission, providing for the findings of fact, repeal or severability, codification, effective date, proper notice, and meeting, and move to include on the September 19th, 2023 agenda for a second reading. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, this is the item we discussed also maybe a meeting or two ago. It's all a blur at this point. This would require a shapefile submitted at the time of plat, both preliminary and final. As we move more to geospatial information for our decision-making, it's a lot easier to see it on a map. And when that is submitted as part of the plat, it makes it very easy for staff to just plop it in correctly, as opposed to trying to make adjustments to the vectors when they try to put it in. I did not read that there was an exemption as requested by Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland, that we exempt subdivisions of less than 4 lots for residential. So I propose that to any council member who intends to make a motion to approve this.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any questions for the city manager on this item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
To approve.
I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Lee.
Is that with the amendment of exemption?
To approve with the amendment for lots 4?
4 or less.
4 or less.
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Plunkett. Any further discussion, council? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion passes unanimously. This should be a fairly easy one. 9J, consider action to approve resolution number R203-134, approving the city council of the city of Bastrop, Texas, approving the Bastrop Public Library to accept a grant in the amount of $2,500 from the Texas Book Festival for the purchase of first reader books for use by library patients and establishing an effective date. Ms. Pearson.
Well, hello. All right, so we have been awarded a Texas Book Festival Collection Enhancement Grant. It is in the amount of $2,500, and this will be used to replace our first reader materials. Those materials are for beginning and emergent readers. This collection is very well loved, and so it is time to replace some books, and this will get us approximately 150 books. So please accept it.
Outstanding. Does anybody have questions for the director of our library services?
Nope, but I want to thank you for staying so late. I'm so sorry. And I will make a motion to approve so you can go home.
I have a motion by Councilmember Lee. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Plunkett. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Ms. Pearson.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for all the good work the library does. Council, we're moving on to item 9K, which is the bottom of page 4 of 6. Consider action to approve resolution number R-2023-137 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, forgive interest totaling $522.49 accrued on liens on property located at 2212 Pecan Street, owned by Mr. Syed Ahmed Ali, and authorize the execution of any lien releases upon payment of Mr. Ali of the principal amounts totaling $610 even. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before you is a resident who lived at 2212, or who owns a property at 22 Pecan. He moved out of the area, did not provide a good forwarding address. We had some mowing liens, and they accrued interest. He's willing to pay the base amount, but would like the council to waive the $522.49 of interest that has accrued on the liens.
Okay, council, the city manager has laid out this agenda item. Do you have any questions for the city manager? Councilmember Lee.
I just have one quick question. I didn't notice the date that he had to pay the balance by. Is there a set date or?
No, but you can give him within 5 days or.
So we can set a date. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
For what reason is he requesting the forgiveness on the interest?
He claims he was not aware of the information. He did not leave a good forwarding address, and claims that he had anything that was issued to him before, he took care of it promptly, and these just accrued without his knowledge.
To the best of your knowledge, is that accurate?
To the best of our knowledge, yes.
Okay.
Council, this individual had sent me an email describing his position, and he'd asked me to unilaterally grant him this waiver, which I will not do. I told him we had to present it to council, so we've laid it out for y'all's consideration. Councilmember Lee, you have another comment? Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland? No. Seeing no other comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Councilmember Meyer. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilmember Plunkett. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
I would like to amend the motion along the lines of what Cheryl was proposing. I don't know, 30 days to pay or else the interest snaps back.
How about 10?
Fine.
I think council's being generous. I think 10 is ample time.
I agree.
Okay. So then the request for the friendly amendment would be 10 days, 10 business days?
Sure.
So 10 business days to pay the outstanding debt or else the interest snaps back into place.
Make the motion to approve on the conditions stated by Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
We already have a motion. We need
Just
to.
if you accept it.
Yes, I accept it.
Okay, there we go.
And I'll accept too.
There you go. All right, council, we have a motion, we have a second, no further discussion. Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland, your light is on. Are you
Not done.
Are you done? No further discussion. Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch.
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer, I thought Councilmember Lee had made that. It was so long ago, I forgot who made the motion. We've already addressed item 9L. We'll move to item 9M. We'll consider action to approve resolution number R-2023-141 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, confirming annual board appointments of the mayor as required in section 3.08 of the city's charter as outlined in Exhibit A and establishing an effective date. Well, this is mine, y'all. I've worked diligently on putting together our boards and commissions, trying to get a diverse cross-section of the community and a diverse cross-section of thought processes within the community. Colin, if you'll go to the next slide. Well, you went too far. There you go. One of our primary responsibilities as mayor is the appointments of city boards and commissions. And as I stated earlier, I spent quite a bit of time. I'm presenting 41 appointments. 29% are new to serving on any board and commission within the city. 46 of our appointees live in downtown, 47 other than downtown, and 7% live in the ETJ. I will make a note that when 2017, some 65% of our boards and commission members lived in the downtown area. So we're really getting a diverse cross-section of our community. 35% of our appointments are male, 65% are female. Guys, you need to step up to the plate. My appointments are compliant with ordinance number 2023 relative to qualifications of certain members of the, or certain number of members of our Planning and Zoning Commission. I have 7 submissions with no appointments, and I have 4 open positions in the construction standards, DEI, ethics, and Main Street. I will diligently be working to fill those open slots and to utilize the people who have not gotten an appointment in a place that is commensurate with where they want to be. I respectfully request City Council confirm the following appointments. Colin, if you'll go to the next slide. Our first board is our Bastrop Economic Development Corporation. I'm reappointing former Mayor Connie Schrader as place 6. I am reappointing Mayor Pro Tem John Kirkland in place 3. I'm reappointing our current chair, Ron Spencer, in place 5, and I will reappoint myself is in place 7. New appointments for this board is in place 2, Amberly Palmer, who is a resident of Riverside Grove, a business owner and designer, in place 2, and Frank Urbanek, who lives in the ETJ, who has a significant history in banking and community service, in place 1. BEDC terms are 2 years by state statute. If we'll go to next slide there, Colin. Bastrop Housing Authority, 2 reappointments, Eva Ballard, who is a resident of our public housing, and Mary Butler, who is in Cedar Creek. I'm asking that they be reappointed to another 2-year term per federal regulations. Next slide, sir. Construction Standards Board, I had no one apply for this. I have an open position on that. Council, if y'all have anybody that y'all would like to recommend to that, please let me know after council. For our Cultural Arts Commission, I'm reappointing Maria Montoya Staten, who's a downtown resident, and place 3 is currently open. Again, any recommendations would be appreciated. Next slide, Colin. For our DEI, or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, I am appointing to place 1 Casey Picas. She has not-for-profit leadership in her background. In place 2, Nancy Wood, former original Main Street director here in the city of Bastrop, and she is a known facilitator. Place 5 is currently open, and I'm reappointing place 7, Sheila Lowe, who is the current chair of that committee. For the Ethics Board, I'm reappointing the Reverend Bernie Jackson, and for place 1, and the illustrious Judge Chris Dugan in place 5. Place 3 is still open. Again, I will work diligently to fill that open slot. Fairview Cemetery Board, 2 reappointments, Robbie Sanders and Mary Williams to place 1 and place 2 respectfully. Historic Landmark Commission, for place 2, I'm appointing Lisa Lakey. She is a former chair of the Austin Historic Landmark Commission, and she's a known preservationist. Place 4, a reappointment of Blake Kaiser. Place 5 is open, as that is normally a P&Z designee, and I will be going to P&Z, to Planning and Zoning, to ask them to appoint one of their members. And in place 7, a reappointment of Cheryl Long. For Hunters Crossing Local Government Corporation Council, that's normally made up of people who either have business or own property in Hunters Crossing. When this LGC was first started, it was dominated by a developer and a builder, and very, very little community input. For this term, I'm place 2. I'm appointing Stacy Braden, who's a business owner in Hunters Crossing. I'm reappointing Richard Gartman in place 5, and I'm appointing Ben Coleman, another Hunters Crossing resident, in place 7. For the Library Board, we have a reappointment of Rebecca Bennett, and I'm appointing Nancy Wood to place 4. Again, she's the former original Main Street director. For our Main Street Advisory Board, we normally take recommendations from the Main Street Advisory Board, and we simply confirm the appointments they've asked for. In place 4, Sonia Cote, as recommended by Main Street Board. Jennifer Long is recommended by Main Street Board, and I'm waiting for another recommendation for them for place 8. For the Parks Board, reappointing current chair Carrie Fossler, reappointment current member Gail Sheehan, reappointment of Margaret Robinson, and because of the dialogue that we've had relative to the rodeo and wanting to get optimum input relative to the rodeo, I'm appointing to place 3 Deborah Jones. She's a former city council member and definitely a rodeo advocate. For planning and zoning, I'm appointing to place 3 Pablo Serna, who meets the architect requirement. I'm reappointing Patrice Parsons. I am appointing Gary Schiff, a well-known developer in town. I'm also appointing Jordan Scott from Hunters Crossing, who has experience in construction supervision. and I'm reappointing David Barrell to place 9. Zoning Board of Adjustments, I'm reappointing Gary Moss, who sits on that. I'm appointing Doc Jackson, a former city council member, to place 5, and I'm reappointing as the alternate number 1, David Lowen, to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Their terms are for 2 years. Next slide, please. For our council liaisons, which are vitally important, I tried to meet all the desires of our city council in appointing members to the various boards and commissions. There's 3 of them that are probably inappropriate or that are inappropriate for council liaison. That's Ethics, Zoning Board of Adjustments, and the Housing Authority. I will serve as the liaison for BDC and DEI, Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland for the Cultural Arts Commission and Historical Landmark Commission, Councilmember Plunkett to the Cemetery and Hunters Crossing, Councilmember Crouch to Parks and Construction Standards. Councilmember Meyer got off real easy. She only has one, which is a Main Street. We'll see if that's easy or not. And then Councilmember Lee for Planning and Zoning and Library. Council, I've laid them out, and it's up to y'all to confirm. Any comments, motions? Councilmember Lee.
So I do have a comment or a question. I don't know if this is for the city manager or for our city attorney. The appointment of Gary Schiff to Planning and Zoning. It was, a precedence was set where a previous P&Z member was attending those developer meetings and was advised that that could be considered unethical. And the end result was for that P&Z member to recuse themselves for a period of time from any B3 code discussion. Mr. Schiff was directly involved in those meetings on a regular basis in every meeting, and being appointed to P&Z, having set that precedence, would he not be required to recuse himself from B3 code discussion? I also say that in concern of his entire interview was very negative toward B3. And I understand people like B3, people don't like B3. There's parts of it developers like, there's parts that people don't like. A lot of the debate has been that previous P&Z members were too attached to B3 to make a decision that's non-biased. I would say you could also be a little irate, so irate at B3 that you're not willing to remain unbiased. And having been part of those development meetings, and a previous member had to recuse themselves because they went to 2 or 3, I think that we need to be consistent in that. I'm not opposed to him being on planning and zoning, but we set a precedence previously by having that person remove themselves or recuse themselves from any B3 discussion. Mr. Schiff was involved in all of those discussions.
I will say that my conversations with him have indicated that should there be a conflict of interest, that he would recuse himself, and I've had that discussion with more than just Mr. Schiff. But so I don't think there's a legal requirement on that. I'll leave that to the city attorney.
And to your point, Mayor, to me, this is more than just a conflict of interest. Is I have a project, I'm in development, it's coming to P&Z, I'm going to recuse myself. The person that was asked to recuse himself before were asked to recuse themselves simply for attending the meetings. So
I'm with you on that. Thank you.
And if that's, I didn't know if that was something we need to talk about in executive session or here, but I want the point to be made.
Certainly, Mayor and Council, you can discuss these items in executive session if you wish under the personnel matters exception. It's council and the mayor's choice. I don't know that being a developer, having a strong opinion about B3 or participating in the city manager's developer groups disqualifies someone from serving on P&Z. I think if the city manager creates working groups and has her own instructions for who's eligible to attend, I support her in enforcing those. And if any member of a board or commission violates the city manager's parameters for her groups, then I think they can and should be disciplined by the manager or by the council. I would trust Mr. Schiff or anyone else to recuse themselves if they have an actual project pending before the city. And of course, our code of ethics is going to apply regarding representing other people before the city if you are appointed to a board or commission.
I'm sorry, so you're saying we can pick and choose who we want to be part of meetings?
I think if the city manager chooses to convene certain groups for certain types of input, I think those are her rules, and I respect any manager's ability to do that.
That's not considered playing favorites or being biased. I mean, what if, I don't see that as being fair. I mean, you could bring in, she just doesn't like me. We ran into each other at the gas station and I got there before she did, and she's not. I mean, there's so many levels of pettiness that you can insert.
I don't think that's what he means, council member. I think what he's saying is part of my ability and my role is to keep the wheels turning and keep the fire to a dull roar. I have to do that sometimes with third-party input from the community. And so I can establish an ad hoc committee, which I use them very often because I really often want to get to what the noise is before I can get to what the bottom is. In the case of Commissioner Koch, we ran into the issue about she didn't necessarily have an ethical dilemma in that she wasn't financially responsible as per our ethics. What I ran into and what I raised was a specific conversation, whether it was clear or not, to be determined. I recall the conversation saying, we are in the middle of what are going to be very contentious times. I want to keep things clean, and also this is going to be something you're going to vote on. It's not going to look, feel, or smell right if you're participating in the meetings. We came to the agreement, and that's what it was, and it was agreement because there was nothing that was required by the code that made her recuse herself. We came to the agreement that she would recuse herself for a period of time. That time has now expired. With potential appointment Schiff, he did participate. I wouldn't say he participated in all of the meetings because he didn't. His attendance waned. I guess my question would be, if you've asked him, Mayor, that he's going to recuse himself for how long? I would have some questions about that.
The conversation went to whether or not he would recuse himself from those projects for which he may gain an advantage in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, so not from B3 conversations, but from financially.
That is correct.
Okay, so that's different than what Councilmember Lee is asking.
Exactly, and my point is, the other individual just attended a couple of meetings and had to recuse themselves. And from what you just described, to me, it's the same situation. It's the same exact situation. Why should he not be required to recuse himself from any B3 discussion? B3 code discussion. Again, I'm not opposed to him being on planning and zoning. I am in keeping consistency and fairness in our processes. I think that because he was so involved in those developer meetings, he should, like the other person, be required to recuse himself.
She recused herself for 4 months. Are we giving him a timeline to recuse? What's going on?
I mean, he will be serving for a whole year, and there will be plenty of discussion regarding B3 code. Add to that the concern that I have that his whole interview was about the B3 code and his dislike of the B3 code.
Well, Councilmember Lee, I have a commissioner right now who hands out stuff in staunch support of the B3 code. So and my comment to you not just to you, but to the council, several months back, probably right when I first started, and I will say it again, dissension is great. It's good. We need it for good public recourse and good public debate. We absolutely need dissension. Disruption is not. That's an entirely different conversation. And when we become so set in our ways that it becomes disruptive, then absolutely I will bring those issues to the council. I'm not sure what conversations the mayor has. This is the first time I see the list with you, so.
So the disruption piece is my concern. It wasn't just I don't like the B3 codes. The entire interview almost was about the B3 codes, his dislike for the B3 codes. Couple that with the fact that he was involved in those developer meetings. And we asked the other person to recuse himself from all B3 discussion after only attending 1 or 2 meetings. I feel like he should be asked to recuse himself from B3 code discussions.
I think, I'm sorry, I think to the city manager's point is that dissension is good. I think you're going to have likes and dislikes. I think there's going to be opinions. That's why we have 9 members on P&Z to have a robust discussion. And I believe that we're going to have a robust discussion on P&Z as we address the B3 codes, our land development codes, and anything that the city is asking the Planning and Zoning Commission to do. So I understand your point. I'm concerned because it's an opinion that he addressed that we are looking to have him recuse himself from all of those discussions.
Please don't misunderstand or twist my words. I am specifically saying because that other P&Z member was asked to recuse themselves from any decisions made concerning B3 codes because she attended 2 meetings, he should be asked the same. He attended far more meetings than she did. This has nothing to do about his personal opinion. It's about being consistent and not coming off as playing favorites because we like this person or we don't like this person, or even if he has the skill in the background. It's consistent in how we operate, consistency in how we operate. She was asked to recuse herself for 60 days, 90 days, whatever it was, because of 2 meetings that she attended. And he attended far many more than that and should be asked to do the same.
Okay, point well taken. Councilmember Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just clarify some points here. Christy Coach was a member of Planning and Zoning. Am I correct, City Manager? She was a member of Planning and Zoning when the request was made for her not to go. Gary Schiff has not been a member of anything. So that's apples and oranges. That's not even in the same ballpark. Your perception, Councilmember Lee, is your perception of the interview that we held, as we all have a perception of how everyone interviewed. My perception is not at all that he was hostile to B3. I think he pointed out some very important points that are incorrect and do not work for Bastrop with the B3. So I think, as the mayor has stated, we all have our opinions, but I just really wanted to make that clear that there's a big difference between former or P&Z Commissioner Coach and a citizen, Gary Schiff.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion? Then I respectfully request a motion to accept the appointments that I've made.
Make a motion to accept the appointments as written.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Again, do I have a second? All right. Motion fails for lack of a second. Does somebody have an alternative motion?
Motion to provide the consent of council on the list with the exception of place 3 of Planning and Zoning, Pablo Serna.
So I have a motion carving out Mr. Serna from a place on Planning and Zoning. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Crouch. I will tell you that I'm disappointed, but it is y'all's prerogative to do that. We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none. Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Councilmember Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
No.
Council motion passes 4-1. I will work on getting a substitute appointment to y'all as soon as possible, along with some of the other open seats. I appreciate y'all's consideration of this. We'll move on to item 9N, consider action to approve resolution number R-2023-139, City Council, City of Bastrop, Texas, approving a professional services contract with MWM Design Group for the Blakey Lane Extension Project for a not to exceed $607,744.50, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents, providing repealing clause and establishing an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. For your consideration and authorization tonight is a professional services contract for the Blakey Lane Extension Project. So as you may know, Texas Highway 71 through Bastrop is a designated major hurricane evacuation route, as well as an evacuation route for all other flood-related events. During these times when traffic is heavy or stopped, unfortunately, the Highway 71 becomes impassable. So the intent of this project is to provide connectivity and improve traffic flow and also level of service. So the scope of work will include extension of Blakey Lane from Edward Burleson Lane to Jessica Place and Old Austin Highway. We would be planning to install approximately 4,000 feet of roadway to include stormwater infrastructure, water and wastewater lines, and sidewalks, amongst other infrastructure. As city manager mentioned previously, we would be looking at this project to make sure that we do our due diligence to make sure that the infrastructure that we install can accommodate the development going on right now and also future development. This is the work limits of this project. Okay. So it would be so this Edward Burleson Lane, we would be extending from the existing Blakey Lane all the way going to the east, coming south, connecting to Jessica Place, and continue going south and connecting to Old Austin Highway. And as city manager mentioned, the intent is to look for the feasibility of installing a roundabout here. For the consultant selection, we used the request for qualifications that was done back in November 2022. And we selected MWM Design Group as the most qualified for this project. And we have a representative with us here tonight, Adam Wigman. The professional services contract is for $707,744.50 and will be funded by BEDC. With your authorization tonight, we intend to submit the notice to proceed this month. The design is estimated to be completed within 12 months, and we anticipate bidding in the fall of 2024. With that, we ask your authorization to approve the professional services contract for the Blakey Lane extension with MWN Design Group in the amount of $607,744.50.
All right, council, items been laid out by Ms. Carvalho. Did I say that right? Carvalho?
Yes.
Thank you. I feel so much better. Do we have any questions for our engineer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
Can you go back to the map?
Yes.
So where will we get the right-of-way for this entire thing?
So the right-of-way would be in this section over here. We do have some dedicated right-of-way already here as part of the Edward Burleson and Reed Ranch. And we may also need to acquire additional right-of-way going west for additional utility infrastructure.
And will this project, does it include the engineering drawings of that right-of-way, or what's in?
So part of our due diligence, we asked the engineer to include additional contingency amount in case he needed to, and that would be to either do additional investigations to acquire right-of-way to the west of that Blakey Lane.
I'm going to bring up a bigger map for you. Colin, will you go back to that just in case big map that I sent?
It's a great name.
I kind of want to see all the just-in-case files and see what we missed.
I have about 5 of them. It'll load up, that's a pretty large file. This is where the magic happens. So part of, no, I'm just trying to highlight. Here, I'll sit there. So this is the area that Fabiola is referencing. We do have the limits. What we don't have is the Dove property, which is where the existing Lee daycare exists. We would have to bump out to the Dove property to acquire additional right-of-way. But what she's being kind in telling you our due diligence is because at the time when we were having this discussion, the amount of units at Pearl River, the amount of units at Valverde, the additional expansion of the Colony Mud, and everything along 969 were but a figment of our imagination. And so we have capacity at 71, but we are fast approaching full capacity at 71. So Blakey is the alternative. And so part of that due diligence is we have plans to do Blakey. We need to make sure that we are doing the correct plan for Blakey and ensuring it's as big as it needs to be without having to come back and dig it up at a later point. It's probably going to have to be a 24. I mean, if we're all very honest with each other about what it's going to capture and what we're expecting it to bring down into the wastewater treatment plant.
We're looking between 24 and 36-inch wastewater line.
That's not a bad thing. We have a $70 million plus wastewater bill to pay.
Did that take care of you, Mayor Pro Tem? Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Crouch. Thank you, Madam City Manager.
Fabiola, I know you said that they were selected from a group of people. Did we put it out to formal bid, this project, or did
It's
you?
not a bid, it's a professional services, so it's a request for qualifications. They submitted their qualifications, we looked over and selected them. This was the one that we did for general services that we divided into different categories. There were architectural, just engineering services for water, wastewater, drainage, and streets. And this was the category that we selected them, category 2, where we also selected other consultants.
So there wasn't a bidding process? So
No,
we didn't have any other prices to compare to? We just selected this firm and then took their number?
Because it's professional services, we are required to select them based on their qualifications, not on the cost.
Yeah, we can't grade engineers on how much they charge us per hour. I wish we could, but we can't.
I was concerned with the cost, so maybe you can explain the cost. And 2, with the amount of time. So 12 months seems like a long time to design a mile of road. I know there's a lot of pieces into it. There's a lot of utilities. And another question I had too, does this take into consideration an alternate route on Blakely Road if we don't get the right-of-way? to move north, I guess it's north, to go around the daycare. So if we don't get that, are we designing two pieces? One if we get it, one if we don't get that land? And is that included in the price of this right now?
We have some contingency that we could do that, but what we do is that we design up to 30% to define the alignment and then go get the right-of-way. So we don't have to redesign based on the right-of-way.
So then we're going to design what? And city manager, maybe you can help me
So
understand.
so we go up to 30% to try to determine the alignment. How straight, what curves, what easements, what do we need to go around if there's already too many utilities, for example, in that right-of-way? The Duff track is going to be a challenge. If we can't agree to a right-of-way amount, then we'll either move to eminent domain or not build Blakey, which is, I don't think, something anybody wants given the amount of traffic.
Yeah, that was my concern is do we go eminent domain route if we can't get that piece? And I'm just concerned about designing it twice and getting a change order because we're moving it and we don't select the right option.
No, absolutely. I don't want us to do it twice, which is why there's some contingency, because as she mentioned, it's not just that, well, I don't know if it was clear, but it's not just that additional right-of-way for Blakey. It's additional right-of-way along that entire tract because there's already some things in that right-of-way. We may or may not have room for the additional utilities that are needed. I might need some additional room, so that's why it's always best for us to try to figure out what we need before we give them the whole checkbook to design.
So you're going to go 30% and then make a decision on it?
Yes.
And then is he giving us options too for Jessica Place?
Jessica was the original, Jessica was the original connection according to the master transportation plan. If council votes to approve Jessica Place or not approve Jessica Place, that will inform this design.
Okay, and then why 12 months?
My name's Adam Wigeman. I'm with MWM Design Group. I live at 1703 Dayflower Trace, Cedar Park. 12 months is very common. There's other consultants that need to go out and do their work, so we have to schedule that in too, such as the SUE services, geotechnical evaluation, just environmental evaluation. All that consultant time needs to be built into it. So from my experience working with the City of Austin and other municipalities, 12 months is not unusual.
Does it include any geotechnical borings or survey, or what all does your proposal include?
We certainly have survey included. You know, we'll scope out those other services and anticipate that because they're certainly necessary in order to design the road and the drainage. So all that's factored in there. So, the price for this, we had $135,000 contingency if we have to go to the west. So the total price of what we're talking about, the 4,000 feet, is for, what, 432, 472.
So you're anticipating already on using the contingency that we're...
No, not at all. I mean, it's contingency for that.
That's going to be used for city's discretion and per our authorization.
Right. Or not?
Or not.
Or not, yeah.
Second?
Okay, it just seems like a long time to design a mile of road. And did you say that you had included the borings or not for the soil testing so you can do your design?
Please come up to the podium so that people at home can.
The price includes that, but we're not spending that at 30%. We're just trying to develop the alignment, try to establish where the right-of-way may or may not be acquired, and, you know, we'll proceed from there. So the brake, you know, we hit the brakes at 30%.
Okay, but so you're going to spend that, you're just not including it in the 30%?
We're not including it in the 30%. Okay. That'll be forecast out.
Okay, that was all the questions I had.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions for our city engineer? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion on this item.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Plunkett and a second from Councilmember Crouch. Is that where, now there, any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
That concludes all the items in individual consideration. We will move to item number 10. Thank you, ma'am.
No.
Thank you, sir.
One more.
I'm sorry. I checked it off. I'm looking, it's 10:25. So 9-0, consider action to approve the first reading ordinance number 2023-32, the City Council, City of Bastrop, Texas, City, to amend Article 4.04, peddlers, solicitors, vendors, and adopt Division 4 requirements applicable to mobile food vendors in the Bastrop, Texas Code of Ordinances, providing for findings of fact, purpose, adoption, and amendment, repealer, severability, enforcement, effective date, property notice, and meeting, and move to include on the council consent agenda on September 19, 2023. You are not Andres Rosales.
I am not. I shapeshifted. Andres wasn't able to attend, so I'm attending in his place, presenting this item for
Thank
him.
you.
How can you tell she's incognito?
I'm just that good. I am that good. So
I'm a new planner with the City of Bastrop here, going on 3 months now. My name is Kennedy Higgins. Nice to meet y'all. So with this item, it is an amendment to the existing ordinance allowing the mobile food vendors. As you can see, they have the, oh, this is not going the right way. There we go. So on the screen is some of the major changes that have been made with this amendment, such as defining mobile food vendors, removing unused definitions. There's a lot of red on this just because the goal for this was to clean it up, to make it easier to understand, to remove things that weren't necessary or that were redundant, and to add clarification for things that are relevant. And one of the main changes was the change in the definition of a temporary mobile food vendor. Previously, it was defined differently. Now they are defining it as a temporary vendor is somebody who is there for less than 4 hours at whatever location they're at. And then some other changes were adding a special event permit and defining it, as well as taking all of the permits that were originally required at different levels. They had the few months permits, basically taking that all, put it into one annual permit instead of having multiple different levels, which just adds clarity and prevents the applicants be like, oh, I don't know what I need, this, and that. It kind of prevents that. It's just like, okay, here, you've got the one permit, this is all you need, and you're good. And, let's see. Yeah, those are the main things. The agreement clarifies a lot of the requirements and the definitions. Let's see. Making the requirement that if they're going to have permanent seating, that they get it approved. And it's basically just kind of streamlining the process and making it actual approval instead of willy-nilly, we don't know what we're doing. This kind of lays it out definedly.
So, Mayor and Council, this originally came up, gosh, I'm going to say maybe November, pretty quickly into my tenure. We had multiple types of mobile food vendors. So you could potentially be a mobile food vendor at the food court and you'd need one particular permit. If you were moving to an event somewhere in town, let's say you were going to a different event at the rodeo, that was yet a different amount. Even though we partner with the county, and the county is the one who actually does the inspections, we issued several different types of permits. And depending on where you were or what type of business you had, you could be paying potentially all 6. The other thing that is really big is we have a lot of vendors who have already begun to be permanent. You know, they've set out tables, they've set out awnings, they've set out those kinds of things. So this really requires fire to get a site plan so that we can make sure that those parking lots still have circulation, people can still get out, and that those trailers are far enough away from the building that if they do start fire, they're not catching everything on fire. It would be contained enough to that mobile food.
Is that it? Does anybody have any questions? Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. Does any of these changes negatively impact any existing vendors that we have? Is there a grace period?
Makes it a lot easier. They'll give you a hug after tonight.
Okay, great.
And it also helps benefit the mobile food vendors who are part of like a special event permit. The event provider gets to wrangle all of that, and they have to pay a $25 as opposed to a couple $100 that it was before.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland.
So we went through the prices of the costs of these permits last year, and we lowered them from some relatively obscene numbers like $3,600 per year or something like that to $400, and $600, depending on which one it was. And at the time, we asked staff to lower it to the kind of number that covered our costs, but didn't bring in additional revenue. And so we've gone from 2 that are 400, 1 that's 600 per year, to 500. So we went up on 2 and down on 1. So I guess I kind of asked the same question. Is this covering our costs, or can we make it lower?
This is a cost that the fire chief worked through. Apparatus and firemen are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I will say $500 is probably an appropriate amount, is given that it is an annual fee and it's less than $50 a month total.
So yes?
Yes, it's an appropriate fee.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Councilmember Plunkett.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for your attention on this. I went through it as a immobile food vendor myself. I didn't see anything in there that that would have offended me if I were a mobile food vendor. So no, I definitely appreciate cleaning up the code, and that's what you've done. So thank you very much. And with that, I would move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Plunkett. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Meyer. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell Andreas thank you for not showing up.
I will.
I'm
You
sure
got
he
to
has-
meet me because of this, so it's
he has-
okay.
He has other more important things to do, I'm sure. Council, now I can go back to item number 10, executive session. Item 10A, City Council shall convene a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.07 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding wastewater treatment plant and collection system improvements, including contract compliance and invoice matters involving KSA Engineering, Inc. Item 10B, City Council shall convene a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 to seek the advice of legal counsel regarding the destination and marketing services agreement with Visit Bastrop, City Council Resolution Number R-2023-129, and related information. And item 10C, City Council shall convene a closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071 and 551.072 to seek the advice of legal counsel and discuss the potential acquisition of real estate relating to Agnes Street Extension Project. It is 10:33 and we are in executive session.
I move to authorize payment by the city of Bastrop.
Can you start all over, Councilmember Crouch, and turn your microphone on?
Okay, we'll start all over again. I move to authorize payment by the city of Bastrop of the Special Commissioner's Award amount and the fees of the Special Commissioners from the September 8th, 2023 hearing in a matter of City of Bastrop versus John A. Nixon and Tina T. Nixon for the Agnes Street Extension Project.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Crouch and a second from Councilmember Plunkett. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you will call the roll.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Councilmember Plunkett?
Yes.
Councilmember Meyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion passes unanimously. We're moving on to agenda item number 12.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to
Second.
adjourn. And I have a second. We are adjourned.
We should second that. Just wait.